Okay,
Good.
I'm going to call the meeting to order, and this technically is a resumption of a meeting that was suspended. For purposes of the agenda, number 4, I believe the 13 March meeting was a regular meeting, not a special meeting for corrections.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so we'll call to order. Before we get into any business, I'd like to welcome Corey Schaefer to our commission, and we're happy to have him and his input. Thanks, Corey.
Yes, thank you.
Roll call, Bloom.
Here.
Schaefer.
Here.
Stewart here, Thomas Guard.
Yep.
And Wyland.
Here.
Okay. No additions to the agenda. Is there a motion to approve? And I'm a little bit confused because that meeting last month was suspended for lack of a quorum. So is our minutes from that meeting going to continue into the resumption of this meeting?
I think. I would guess so, right? That'd be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be the.
Let's do that.
Okay.
And so we won't approve minutes from that partial
Right.
meeting. We will next month from the resumption of this meeting.
I'll just put the
Do that.
minutes from tonight on this document and note that it's an addendum.
Okay, very
All right.
good. Is there can I have that sign-in sheet?
Oh, please.
We'll go to public comment. I'm assuming there's some fellows that might want to say a few things. Glad to hear from you. Actually, it was kind of nice to have you guys here because Jason could use the maybe some input on one of our agenda items that we're going to talk about, and that's bylaws. But it looks like there's 3 members of the audience that wish to speak, and happy to have that done. However, if you speak about a topic that's not on the agenda, we cannot respond, just so you know, Robert's rules. Carrie, you want to say a few words? Carrie Smith?
Yeah, I'm on the board, Kerry Smith, 22 years, and the bylaws, I believe, that are written, I went through it once before, and you're working on new drafts, and it's a big change. But I was always under the impression that we approve our bylaws in the department first, before they go outside for anything else, and with change coming, when we have to amend these bylaws in a week or 2 weeks or a month, what do we have to do then? That's the
Yeah.
question I have to you.
Your question is appropriate, and the reason I say that is I was listening to a fire department member, Eric Saylor, explain that when he drafted these laws, he understood that it was just a draft and they needed to be tweaked more.
Correct.
And he was concerned that they're out there now. But the reality with that concern is the village board, who covers the village ordinances, the PFC, who covers PFC rules, and the fire department, who makes their bylaws. The only goal here is to make sure they're all in sync and they don't contradict each other. And from our discussion tonight, I'm fairly certain we'll get there pretty easily. Let us have our discussion and input from Jason, and I think we'll be in pretty good shape. Now, just so you know, our directive, the PFC directive, is to give the village administrator our responses and our thoughts on the current bylaws that were given to us. I understand what you're saying. Well, it's not exactly what you wanted official, and that's fine. We understand that. We can work with that too.
And I guess we haven't even had a meeting to discuss the members that have read them and gone through and adjusted. We haven't even done that.
Okay,
So I mean, you're putting a horse in front of a carriage, so speak up in my book, I mean. As
yeah,
members, we could come and destroy a half that, saying we don't want this language or whatever, and then you guys are doing this meeting again, spending taxpayer dollars on this again and again.
yeah. Reality, Carrie, is those bylaws were requested a year and a half ago. Yeah. I mean, I understand a lot going on, but year and a half, come on.
we only meet every other month.
Okay, okay.
So,
The business meeting, is that what we're talking about?
no, officers meeting.
Officers meeting, gotcha.
that,
Okay. I understand.
And that's every other month, and, you know, yeah, it takes a while, and from our current bylaws, which have been approved by the village, that we use right now, obviously outdated, we have made Eric, officers, or fireman sailor, done drastic changes.
Absolutely. I
And
think
great.
it's doubled in size, right?
Correct, yes,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
it takes time to read that, and we all, most of us have full-time jobs and families and other obligations, so I mean, we didn't wanna rush through this, I should say, and we wanted to do it properly. And, we thought we were gonna have time to approve them ourselves within the next month, the meetings coming up. And then it was, no, we need a draft now,
Okay.
I just don't understand that.
I think the input that you may get from the PFC that we will be turning over to Boz tonight may be helpful in in the task that you want to do.
But that's my question, so you do, I'm not saying you guys ain't gonna add great qualities or whatever, but I'm saying we haven't even approved them, and that's what I don't get. So when it
Yeah.
comes back, if we approve them or tweak them and then we approve them, it's gotta come back to you to have it looked at again,
I
correct?
don't think so. I think it's gonna go through the boss, the village administrator.
Okay.
Okay. But we'll provide that, and if I recall, they might be on public safety agenda, Jason, is that bylaws coming up? I thought the last public safety meeting, there was a discussion of putting it on their agenda for the April meeting.
Yeah, if I remember right, it's on there,
Yeah.
an update on the progress.
Okay.
If I remember the wording
It's a
correctly.
process, it's a process, but we certainly aren't gonna jam anything down your throat, Carrie. Tim Schmidt?
Yeah, my name is Tim Schmidt, and I'm actually not a part of the Port Edwards Firemen's the group, or am I a part of the village of Port Edwards? But I am in the township of Port Edwards, and I'm one of the chairmen, or I mean, I am a supervisor there. So I don't have any questions at this point, but if we do hire, you know, we do contract through the Port Edwards Fire Department. I just want to have a little insight, what might be going on or what is going on, just for our own interest.
Of course, right.
So no questions.
Thanks.
Just thought maybe something did come up. I'd be able to do that, and there's nothing that, I'm not very knowledgeable on what's really quite going on through the little bit that I read, so I don't have any questions.
Gotcha. Brian? Any thoughts for us?
Not much other than what Carrie's already stated. I guess the bottom line comes down to it is if the fire department chooses to not approve these bylaws, we go back to what's already on the books. So again, it seems silly to be going through all this work when the membership may not even approve these bylaws.
Okay, I think what will be to your advantage when you do get to meet and discuss your bylaws again is our feelings of, you may not realize this, but this bylaw and this bylaw is against the state law. So let's tweak it in this manner so it complies with the state law. And really, when you talk PFC, everything they do, fire promotion, discipline, it's all guided by state statutes. So that's all that we're here is to assist in that manner. So I think we will be helpful to you.
Yeah, I think just to reiterate what Scott's saying, we're not trying to change your bylaws to make them not what you're looking to do. We're just trying to look at them to make sure that they are applicable under the state law. And really the changes that we're going to discuss, that's exactly what we're doing. We're saying, yes, this one follows the state law. No, this one needs to be tweaked. Here's why, and hopefully being able to give you guys examples, because all of us can be in trouble if we're not following state laws and state statutes. So we're not trying to necessarily change everything you and your team, Jason, are trying to do. We're just trying to stay within applicable laws.
It's
So-
understandable.
I understand that, Andrew. It was like I said, it's just, we haven't even approved them yet as a department, nor even talked about them.
Sure.
We got a copy 6 weeks ago or whatever it was, and we haven't had an officer meeting or a committees meeting, they talk about it.
No, which makes
Like,
sense.
All of a sudden, boom, now you guys all got copies that You know, there could be cartoons in it. I can't tell you that, you know?
And I'll be honest, I don't know the path on how we got the copy of it, but I do know that there's a lot of issues that are conflicting with state laws. So that was where we said, well, maybe it makes sense to hop in now, just to help you guys along more than anything, to be able to say, hey, these bullet points need to be revised if they're going to stay in, to have the proper language to make sure that we're all in compliance.
When we get into that discussion later on the agenda, you'll also see that there's a couple past that state law issue that have to do with a question really for you, how can we get by this issue that we see as an issue and a stumbling block? And Jason and I have talked about that before, and he's confident we can come up with a way we can get that past that. That's all I have on the list that wants to speak. I can't believe Del Stewart doesn't want to say anything, but
I was told to be nice.
oh, I understand.
Reminds me of the dog doing
I
a
understand.
talk.
Okay,
I really do want to speak, but I was told to be nice.
I gotcha. All right. Thanks for your input. Seriously. Jason?
Can I clear up one thing quick? There's a long lapse in time from when these bylaws were requested to when I turned them over to everyone. And that was on me, because me being a new chief and not really having a firm grasp on the understanding of everything, I didn't think it was appropriate to dive right into the bylaws and start changing rules when I didn't know how that might affect me later down the line. So that's the reason for the delay.
The next item on the agenda is, that's it for public comment, I'm assuming. Police chief monthly report, which focuses on hire, fire, promotion, or discipline. Chief Drew, do you have anything for us in those areas?
I do not, and we still sit with one open position, which has been approved but unfunded. So other than that, I've got nothing to report.
Thank you. Chief, how about on the fire side?
I heard we got an application. I haven't seen it yet, though. I'll be sure to get you guys a copy as soon as I have that. Craig Kester officially retired as of the first of the month. So we wish him well. Thank him for 30 years of service. He was a very good firefighter.
We agree. 30 years is commendable.
Yep.
His position at retirement was assistant chief,
Yes, first assistant chief.
first assistant chief.
So
Do you anticipate coming to us with a recommendation to fill that position at
yes,
some point?
probably by our next meeting or May. I would have a recommendation now probably, but with elections going on and there was still some rules and possible conflicts of interest kind of up in the air with someone maybe could not be an assistant chief over there and be on the village board here, or have a spouse that's on the village board. So I think that those clarifications are firm enough now where we can make a decision.
Fair enough. Maybe we'll see something next month.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, next one is our thoughts regarding the draft copy of the fire department bylaws. And what I did was put some thoughts on paper and relate it to the sections of the bylaws. So, if you're looking at, the document that is 2 pages long, or actually it's 3, that says Port Edwards Police and Fire Commission and begins with the village administrator has requested input. That document, lists concerns of sections of the draft copy of the fire department bylaws. And the first one is section 1, paragraph 5. So although these pages aren't numbered, section 1 is clear and 5 is on there. And that has to do with the fire department as you know, when firemen are appointed to the fire department, they are either associate status or firefighter status, those two things. And the difference is the amount of training that they have when they come in onto the job. They, from my understanding, firefighter one includes these courses, ICS 100, 200, the DNR wild land fire training. Although both of those statuses, whenever we appoint, they both go through a probation period. I think it's a year, right, Jason? Okay.
Typically a year or
Typically a
whenever their
year.
schooling's done, yeah.
What that paragraph says, though, is at the end of that probation period, the fire department members vote on whether that candidate who is now not on probation becomes a member. My question and my concern is that when you do that and you do not get 51% of the vote to approve that fireman who's now off probation, you're effectively terminating him. And when you do that, it's against the law. It has to go through PFC.
No, they would just remain on associate status if they weren't approved for
A vote,
full-time membership.
a membership
That's
vote.
my understanding, yeah.
Well, then what?
Then I would assume there's some sort of problem with approving them, or maybe their schooling isn't finished. You know, like there would have to be some sort of underlying issue, like for me, for example, I took my fire inspector course in December of 2021. And there hasn't been a certification test offered for you, like 16
So
months
you can't
later.
take the test.
I can't take the
Yeah,
test, so I
right.
think that would
Understandable.
put me in
That's-
some sort of
then- but
limbo.
Wouldn't that be an extension of the probation as opposed to a non?
Yeah, negative
opposed to a vote?
Yeah,
Oh, I'll suspend the rules for a second. Carrie, did you have some input?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about there. Years ago, obviously, we had a department that was full. And if you read that, you had certain men, 30 members or 28 members at the time, when we first started this association program. There was no positions, if there's only 2 positions open and we got 4 associates. We can put 2 up and 2 stayed on the associate program for however long until another one moved up.
Because those guys aren't paid anyway.
They are paid. Yeah.
Oh,
They are
okay.
paid.
I thought the village
Originally-
ordinance restricted your number.
Correct. Originally, they were not paid. When I first got on 22 years ago, when you got on, you got paid.
Oh,
You
okay,
got paid to go to school, you did all that.
okay.
And it was, once we got the membership and went, hey, let's open this up and get some associates, so when people retire, we can just move them in. And we won't pay these to help those taxpayer dollars from doing what they need to do. So these associates ain't getting paid at that time, back when we had the membership. Well, 22 years ago, if I wasn't getting paid to go to school and spend away from my family I would have done. Today, I would not have done.
Yeah.
And, so I brought that to motion and we changed that years back to where now we got room for these associates. Let's pay them, let them get them down here. Otherwise, we're asking them to do everything we do. Get away from their family, come to the fires, do whatever, and clean trucks and do all this.
I know.
And not get a dime. I'm like, let's change that back to when it was. We did. But what you're saying before is that after a year, that wasn't the case. At that time, we only had 2 spots. We had 4 associates, only 2 could come on. And the 2 would stay till the next.
The reality is this time and day and age, not only locally, but across the country, we can't get guys to be firemen or policemen. And so I don't think there was a concern on the village board's behalf of getting too many firemen.
No, that's, your comment was that after a year that they could be fired, and it wasn't the case. There wasn't a spot for them, so they were on associates, could have been on for a year and a half.
So even if they didn't get the 51% approval vote of the entire membership, you're saying that doesn't mean they'd leave.
Correct.
right.
All right,
That's the way I read it.
okay.
It says voted and approved. They're on probationary status for 1 year or until voted and approved. So if both of those haven't happened, they're on probationary status.
Okay,
We could clean up the language
I was saying, is there
on
a
our
cleanup?
end, just
Is there a
for extra
cleanup that can be
clarity.
done to that paragraph?
that sounds
so
good.
that-
Could you make a note?
that-
All right,
Yeah, I did.
okay,
Okay.
great. I'm sorry to spend, I hope, The rest shouldn't take this long. Paragraph, the section 2, paragraph 6. This is a little concern. A rejected applicant should be permitted to file another application after 6 months. My question is, that's in a different section.
No, say,
I'll come
that's,
back to that, but what I was gonna say is what happens in 6 months that is gonna change things when they're rejected? Actually, later on in the document.
Yeah, I think that's,
Scott, which paragraph are we in? These aren't lining up.
All right, let's start all over. The second paragraph we'd like to look at is
Yeah.
section 2,
Section 2,
number 2A.
2. Oh, okay, all right. I see. Thank you.
It has to do with firemen in the village, and I'm glad to see on this document, there's a 15-mile radius, because that's what the state law is. So that's good. Here again, 2K paragraph indicates appointment are made via membership vote and village board approval. It looks like, yeah. Village board is still in there. So anyway, state law says the PFCs have exclusive authority for appointment, dismissal, etc. So you don't need to get your firefighters approved by the village board. By state statute.
So the line nor contain a member not approved for membership by the village board, is that to be struck?
Well, it's just input for Jason. It's not correct according to law. So village board does not have the authority to approve PFC appointments.
So how should that be worded? Should that line just be eliminated, or should village board be changed to PFC?
Well, here's how I look at it. If we had 10 guys applying for a firefighter position, I know we have never seen that, we probably never will. But if we do, and we go through our testing process, and the membership committee does their interviews, and we do our interviews, and there's background checks, and the PFC issues a document that said, this is a list of 7 guys that are eligible for hire. By law, the chief of the fire department then can pick any one of those 7 guys that he wants to hire. That's how it's supposed to work. We don't do it that way because we don't get enough guys to apply. So when theoretically, when the PFC commits to a list of people eligible for hire, it's up to the chief to pick the candidates that he wants. Now, your bylaws indicate 51% approval of the fireman membership. That's fine with us. We don't care. It's gonna be a chief directive after he gets your vote or your input or whatever your bylaws say. That's fine. That gives you the input of, we've approved a candidate for hire. Here's the list. The chief and the membership committee theoretically could say, we don't like number 2. We're not gonna say to the PFC, this is the guy we want. That puts that final authority back in you, and it works the same way for the police. A list of eligibility to hire is created. So knowing that, tweak that section how you think is appropriate. I think the 51% of the membership vote is still fine to be in there, but these appointments have nothing to do with the village board.
Okay, I know we always kind of get hung up on the timing with that, where I don't know what the state statutes read, but you know, where you, the PFC would present names to us, but the reality is things kind of happen in tandem, you know, where we're interviewing the candidate or the applicant. You guys are doing background checks, things like that. I know we talked about it briefly about, instead of interview here, interview there, back and forth, maybe combining them to kind of streamline the
I
process.
agree with that streamline idea.
Absolutely.
I think it's
So
I think it's terrible what we do now.
Could we even word it like that? The approval in conjunction with PFC recommendations, or I don't know.
Yeah.
how to-
Yeah, Jason,
I don't know how to get the wording just right, but.
yes.
Yeah, we'll figure out.
You know, I know, in that section 2, paragraph 6. That is also, it has to do when the chief takes office. Immediately following the chief shall take office, immediately following their approval by the village board. Until they reach the age of 60, blah, blah, blah. That, there's no village board approval for a chief to take office. It's a PFC appointment by law. We can suspend the rules to allow you to comment, of course.
I know I didn't sign in.
That's okay.
Okay,
I guess I'm asking permission to say something.
Absolutely, go ahead.
So Dennis Sager, 37 years, Port Edwards Fire Department, retired. I guess how long has the PFC been in existence?
I think it's been 5 years, Dennis.
June of 18.
Well, most of these bylaws that you're speaking of without, village board, we needed to go to the village board because the PFC wasn't there.
I know, exactly.
Yep.
And it's an interesting comment that you bring up, because here's how it works in most towns. Towns that do not have PFCs have fire department membership committees. Those membership committees develop rules on how to hire and how to screen and what processes to bring on people for employment. When there's a PFC, fire departments normally, the only town that I know of that has one, when a PFC is established, membership committees generally do not become involved in the hiring or promotion process. They still do the retirement points and the administrative work that has always been done. But we're unique in that we kept both when the PFC was established. So I'm not advocating for any change. I actually like the input of experienced firemen. And I want to continue with the membership committee conducting their interviews of potential candidates. But we got to streamline the process, like Jason says. We got to figure out a better way. It's not working right now. And there's a constant issue of one entity being upset with the other. And it's perpetual. And we got to fix that. I'm assuming, and Jason, you probably know the question of this, in that particular section, it indicates that a fireman or a fire chief, after reaches the age of 60, has to pass a yearly physical or can be removed by cause. I couldn't find that in the state law. Is that something, a state guideline? Where did that come from?
Not sure where that originated from.
That was originally in our bylaws.
Was it?
It was just a bylaw
60 and
thing?
out, yeah.
Are you now concerned that that is an age discriminatory issue?
That's why it got removed. Right.
I am
Agreed.
concerned with that too, but it's still in your draft bylaws, by the way, both for firemen and chief.
Cause it's a draft.
Okay,
I believe the reason it's in there for the 60 yet is because at the 60 in our bylaws, we wanted to do a physical every year. They're still in the department, but we wanted that physical at 60.
yeah,
You have a
I,
physical now, don't you? Before 60?
Still discriminating.
Okay.
Once a year.
but I assure you, I have some concerns with a district age discrimination.
Just that age yet.
Yeah,
So technically, if you remove that, you could remove the whole needing a physical at 60. That requires.
well, that's my belief, but it's something that should probably be researched further. Of course, I think it's up to the leadership of the fire department to acknowledge when they have a firefighter at any level of command, that if he becomes an issue of performing the job role or expectations, that it has to be addressed internally. But I know 60-year-olds that are in great shape. I know 55-year-olds that could never climb a ladder. You know, so that my concern is this is not a state mandate. We shouldn't, there's a discrimination concern.
So the wording could be something in the aspects of physical limitations may require a physical hearing. And then that's not an age requirement, no age. I mean, if they're 30 and 200 pounds overweight, we could require a disability.
Just
to give you-
performance. I think focus more on performance as opposed to a disability or any type of restriction, because that could be looked at as a disability.
I understand.
So if there's a performance issue, then I think you can require.
Just to give you a perspective on this, in the driver's ed world, you can't require a retest of a driver at a certain age. Because that's discrimination based on age. However, and I tell all of my adult clients this, if you go into the DMV to renew your license, regardless of how old you are, if you show up with an appliance, a cane, a crutch, God forbid, a walker, no test, 30-day letter, and they use that as a end around to the question of health and physical capacity of a driver who could potentially be impaired. There's no mention of age attached to it. You could be 35 and have blown your knee out playing catch-up basketball somewhere. And if by an unfortunate luck of the draw, your 8 years license cycle is up and you gotta go in and renew it, there's a really good chance that you're gonna get a letter in the mail from the DMV saying you need to come in for written test and road test. No, that's not guaranteed. That's the station chief discretion at whatever DMV office you show up. But that's the same sort of thing. If there's an obvious manifestation of incapacity, then they can do something about it, but they can't be a blanket based upon an age or any other quality that would just be arbitrary.
Carrie?
I guess our concern on that was, at the time when we first did these years ago, was the underlying unknowns. You know, like a high school student or a middle school student every 2 years got to get a physical because they have a hole in their heart. Like, you know, they run up and down the court 25 million times, and all of a sudden one day they're laying on the, you know, getting shocked. Well, if they'd have found it, kind of deal. So that's what we were trying to look at. Okay, so at 60 years old, you know, heart's been pumping for 60 years. How many times? Let's at least get this checked and what's right. I mean,
I understand the reasoning behind was good, but it's discriminatory.
Well, regarding fitness for duty, just pick up on what Leo said. To be arbitrary, it'd have to be a medical doctor. So if you want a medical doctor to make a suggestion on when the next physical is required, you could maybe do something like that. But for you guys to arbitrarily decide that somebody needs it, it's gonna come back on us.
Yeah.
What does the state or even the military do, for police, fire, military? How do they? I mean, every physical type, career must have
Well,
something.
Within
Some sort of
with the
wording?
exception of the chief position in Illinois, mandatory retirement at 65 for cops.
Is that age discrimination or?
No, it's set by legislator.
Okay,
So because it's a state law, and I looked for this 60 in Wisconsin state laws and I couldn't find it, that's what I'm concerned about.
Okay.
So it seems to be a local rule. But anyway, I would look into that. I'm worried about that. So 6 was regarding a fire chief having to do this after the age of 60. 7 has to do with a fireman having to do after 60. So both and both paragraphs also indicate the village board will terminate them, you know, if they don't take a physical. And nobody is allowed to be terminated, as you'll hear me repeat a million times today, without a PFC hearing. So you're gonna terminate, you have to go through the PFC.
I'm probably stepping out of bounds, but, does OSHA regulate the fire department also?
I think Jason does, quite a bit, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I know in the workforce, they can do SCBA, self-contained breathing. We had to have a yearly physical for that.
right.
I don't know what I had to be on blood pressure medicine because blood pressure was a little too high, so I couldn't get mine until I got the blood pressure down. Now, I don't want to cause any more money or grief for the village or the firefighter, but I mean, you do want you're looking out for your people too, and that's, it's a good thing. I don't know what the laws are. In a sense, is if you have to, mandatory, but I know OSHA required us to.
Yeah, I understand Carrie's point about they're really looking out for the people, but the other side of that is I'm a little bit concerned for you that it's discriminatory.
Okay.
No age involved in that.
Right. To touch on Tim's, I think it's in our standard operating guidelines. It's recommended that you go every other year for physical, but there again, I'll follow up on that and see exactly what the OSHA guidelines are.
But just hypothetically, what would happen given this discussion about age and physical limitation? What would happen if you had a member who was just completely intransigent and wouldn't do anything? It's obvious to everybody in the department that this person is limited in some respect. They've got heart trouble, they've got bad knees, they've got a bad back, whatever. And to have them in a fire structure on a ladder is a problem. How would you handle that?
I love that subject. We're all people. We have people who can't swim, people are afraid of heights, things like that, and it's all just getting to know each other. And we had a younger guy in the department years ago, and we were up at a chimney fire, and the chief had me take him up there and show him how to clean out a chimney. We're talking later, and he's like, "Man, I don't know what his problem was. I asked him to do that a couple of times. He just stood there." I said, "He's scared of heights,
Hopefully it wasn't a metal roof.
No, it's jingle, but there are so many other things that need to be done. If someone can't swim, no problem. You stay on shore and, look at a map or run the radio or hold a flashlight or something. If you're afraid of heights, you can stay on the ground and
So
spray
there's
water.
a self limitation to that.
Yep, yeah,
Okay.
even if a guy or a girl, is, like you said, completely incapacitated, you can run the radio, there's other support behind the scenes, even clerical, administrative, yeah, we're not all, New York firefighters where we have to run up 90-story skyscrapers every day. So all kinds of little stuff we can do.
Gary,
As long as
you
there's-
got a comment?
I'll make a comment on that too, as Chief did very well on that. As we're doing tonight, what are we looking at? A whole bunch of crap and paper. If there was a guy that couldn't do anything, clerical work and going through our bylaws and doing all that crap, it'd be a great place. I mean,
Plenty of stuff, plenty of that to do, isn't there?
There's plenty of this. I mean, I'd love to have 2-3 interns that just want to do paperwork.
Even your reporting responsibilities, I assume, are fairly extensive.
Correct.
Okay, and in the next paragraph, on number 8, in the middle of the paragraph, it just simply makes reference that the village board, upon advice of the chiefs, may terminate membership for cost. Village board can't do that. You're gonna terminate somebody, you gotta go through the PFC. The next section is 2 pages down. It starts in section 4. And paragraph 2. And that just talks about EMS training, and it's held on the 3rd Tuesday. And the guys should try to make it. They're required to go to 6 a year. But the guys that are refusing or fail to come to those drills without having been excused by the chief may be suspended, put on probation, or terminated. Let me make it clear. The chief may suspend without anyone's approval. But if the chief wants to terminate, he needs to bring charges, to the PFC about the member that he wants to terminate and why. So that, paragraph, you need to clean up a little bit.
You could recommend termination, right?
Yeah.
If you added like recommend in there, that would
Yeah,
Right.
right.
kind of, it'll show that you have, you know, that decision making
Or
influence.
or if there was a less severe penalty assessed and the individual felt it was unfair and didn't think the chief was managing his or her situation correctly, then that person could bring that to the PFC and appeal. But the actual, you know, if somebody's out the door, you bring that recommendation to us and we do that. This way, we're the bad guys and you don't have to.
And I don't know if you were
Point it out.
just saying this, Leo, but
Yeah.
the other time that the PFC gets involved is if the chief has complete authority, I'm suspending you for a month for this reason. He should notify the PFC, here's what I've done, here's the action I've taken, and this is why. However, if that employee wants to appeal that suspension, it's not right what Jason did to me. Then he can come to the PFC and request a hearing as to that suspension.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what our function is.
If you discipline somebody for some reason and it's in-house. And it would be helpful for us in the event that that person shows up at our door, either in person or in writing, and says, you know, so-and-so said this, and all of a sudden we're like, huh? If you know that somebody's going to get a writ for something, then let us know so that if that person arrives, we at least have an idea of what's going on. It may very well be that that individual will accept your discipline and understand, yeah, I screwed up, okay, I get it.
Yeah, because the risk of that employee who got suspended coming to the PFC says, I want to challenge the chief's authority to suspend me.
Yeah.
I don't think it was warranted. The PFC has the authority to confirm the suspension, make it a lesser
Or go bye-bye.
10 days suspension, or can terminate, go above and beyond what the chief did, and the PFC can terminate because of the behavior. So there's that balance. The next one, section 8, this has to do with promotions, and it's paragraph 4, and here again, recommendations will be forwarded to the PFC for appointment, and that has to do with promotion. All appointments will be confirmed by the village board. That's against state law. PFC appoints and approves, no village board approval is needed. The next is section 10, and the same thing, paragraph 3. And it has to do with dismissing members who fail to attend meetings, one half of the drills or half of the fires in a year. The first sentence makes reference to dismissing. I'm assuming dismissing means termination. That's not something special. That's not termination, right? If you mean dismissing as termination, you need to go through the PFC again. That's section 10, paragraph 3.
What do you mean? Dumping them. I'm kind of hung up on the last one, section 8, paragraph 4.
Yep.
Where it's, any appointments made will be confirmed by the village board. Is that it's not approved by the village board, just confirmed? Is that, do the village board still need to do that as far as like payroll?
Oh, I think we need to notify
attendance,
them, and I think we
roster.
need to recognize the person being promoted in
Yeah.
the meeting, no doubt about it. But as far as the law goes, if the village board were put in a position of approving or confirming the appointment, and they said no, they can't say no. The PFC is exclusive authority for doing that. So that's my question.
I guess, how do you take the word confirmed? They're just confirmed, the way I'm reading it is they
You can,
agree.
you can say the
Agree.
PFC for appointment and confirmation, and the village board will be notified. Because really, you're just notifying the village board at this point.
Yeah, because like you said, there's payroll considerations, there's recognition considerations.
That's what you're saying. We'll eliminate, any appointments made by, will be confirmed by, just eliminate that sentence. Cause all you guys need to say, it's all recommendations be forwarded to the PFC for appointment. Then you're good.
Okay, I just making
What
sure
you're gonna
that,
do is go to 7. It's your duty, not the PFC, that at the next board meeting, you as the chief will stand up and say, hey, we've appointed XYZ to be your new officers.
okay,
The village board's just in receive mode there. They're not
Yeah.
saying anything.
that's the way I took that.
Is that
It was
good
just-
for you guys?
Just being
Yeah.
received
Alright.
back, so,
No,
alright.
that's fine.
Or is there a requirement for them, the board to put in their minutes this appointment? Cause I'm reading, maybe I'm probably just reading it wrong, but I'm reading this along the lines of, so any appointments made will be confirmed, not may be confirmed. It's saying they have to confirm it. I'm reading that as.
Well, that was
they
the
have
old,
to
like
put
you
in
mentioned back
public
there, that
record.
was the old method prior to them. Now in their minutes, it's gonna show appointments that the village board reads. When he's at the village board meeting, he's going to foot stomp that saying, these guys got promoted. So it's already in official minutes, their minutes,
by happening
your guys'
here.
minutes, yeah.
Okay,
And then the village board approves everyone's minutes at the village board meetings.
sure, okay.
So section 10(3). Oh, I guess I was wondering, Jason, I'm assuming the word dismissing also refers to terminating an employee.
Yeah, I
in
was
that
kind of,
sentence.
I was kind of reading above it just to get a little context.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that's how I would read it too.
Yeah,
Replace that with termination or terminating.
well, it says consideration should be given to dismissing or terminating a member for doing that. That's fine if you want to consider terminating someone for doing that. I don't care what your rules are, but you gotta bring that to the PFC. You just can't fire a guy.
Or does that mean? I guess dismissing, does that mean excusing?
Well, that was my question,
If they have-
because earlier there was the term excusing for,
Yeah.
it's okay for you not to show up on the drill.
Yeah, guys working or
Yeah.
has a baby, something like
Yeah,
that, you know,
so that was my question to you. What does dismissing mean?
dismissing them from the requirements.
Dismissing definitely needs attention, but I'm
Yeah.
reading that as you're on the hook. Once they are no longer participating adequately, you're on the hook to not to consider that to make some kind of decision regarding what's gonna happen. That we can't just turn a blind eye to them, skipping out on responsibilities.
Yeah, there's that side too. I see what you're saying.
If you look at the last sentence in that section, it references section 9, which is the section prior to this, which is on the power of excuse. So dismissing means terminating in this case.
Okay,
Where does it say that?
The last sentence talks about unless excused by section 9 of the bylaws. So,
so there's certain
It's
reasons you can
being-
give an excuse, you can excuse a guy.
right. So you're either terminating him or you're excusing him under section 9 of the bylaws, which talks about
It's
death, vacation.
kind of junk wording.
It is.
Consideration should be given, doesn't say shall be given. It's more of a recommendation than a requirement if should is used.
Which one?
Yeah, I agree with
So
Section 10(3).
10(3).
Right down the
Yep,
bottom.
the bottom talks
Yeah.
about,
Uses a lot. Oh, okay.
right, and then the prior section, this is all the excuses that can be
All right.
relied upon.
Something
Good.
for your notes, Jason.
Yeah, we'll touch on it.
Okay,
Oh, I see.
section 10, paragraph 5. That has to do with discipline. And it talks about progressive discipline. But the wording in that paragraph includes dismissal or termination. And that can't be in that paragraph unless you're gonna accompany it with a PFC hearing. 10(5).
Okay.
immediate dismissal from the department, etc. 10.6C. Also. Um. Talks about expelled, dismissed, determination, or termination. 6C, that's the third offense on progression. At that meeting, a member should be expelled from the department. Here again, I'm assuming when you say expelled, you mean fired? Terminated?
I would assume so, yeah.
Okay, if that's what it means, you need to correct that.
There again, it should be expelled. It's not shall be expelled. So,
Yeah, so
all right,
like Corey was suggesting, maybe what this intention on the drafting of this law, these bylaws meant is when you say should be expelled, that's when you should consider bringing disciplinary action to the PFC against an employee. You know what I mean?
mhm.
But I'm just saying the route you need to go is that. So the last thing, section 10, paragraph 7. May not include the words, it's the same thing, dismissal or termination. It's the same thing. If you're gonna have dismissal and termination in that ability, just know that you need to go through a PFC. Hearing.
Okay. So for clarification, so for the chief and the department is PFC, hire, fire, discipline, promote. At what level of discipline you all interpret action comes here? If they pull a firefighter off to the side and the chief gives some verbal counseling, that's discipline. That's done at their level. That's recorded at their level. You have no expectation to see that here.
Yeah,
But we need to clarify that line because there's a lot of things in here that says must be pushed to the PFC. He needs to know that clear line. All
of course. And
That
here's
pushes
what
to
the
the
state
PFC.
says about that line.
right,
The state says that if you're gonna bring someone before a PFC hearing, the outcome of that hearing must be one of three things. It can't be a written warning, it's not a verbal warning, it's not a training issue. It is only one of three things. Commissioners, I want him suspended, I want him demoted, or I want him fired. That's the only things that can come before a PFC in a disciplinary hearing. Other stuff is handled through the village administrator, through the internal process of the chief,
that helps you clear.
you know what I mean? So that's how that works, by law.
So just if I were to want to ratchet it up to that level of suspension, demotion, or firing, then you would be involved.
That comes here.
That's correct.
The other stuff is.
It's
is
all on
totally-
you
totally
and
in-house.
with the assistance of your boss.
Unless the offender don't like what you did and decides to appeal it. In which case, like Scott said, that it's a coin flip, because if they show up here and we think that this person gets more than what you gave him, we can do that. We probably won't, but the individual coming to the commission has to understand that this is the next step up the chain, and it can go down, it can stay where it is, or it can go out the door. So,
You know, the rest of your bylaws, although I have some questions, the rest of your bylaws, the one that when you just now brought up, well, what if it's not rise to that level of punishment? What if it's something I want to handle internally, whether it's you, or your officers, or your boss? My question for you is, you have this Board of Appeals for a grievance in your bylaws. In what situation would that kick in? I don't understand it.
Where's that section?
It's page 11, it starts section 11.
See, a lot of these were adopted from other municipalities.
That's what I'm thinking, that this is in
So-
place of a PFC for some reason by mistake.
Yeah, I think this was, something that didn't quite get through our editing process yet.
Okay, maybe a note for you to check.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, we have no internal board of appeals for grievances.
yeah, right. Unless, you know, it's a grievance for a matter that really isn't a disciplinary matter. It's some other kind of grievance that, I don't know, Boswell is. or
They only
something.
happen during Christmas time, the airing of grievances, is that the only time you guys do that?
Right after the feats of strength.
Okay,
Scott, may I interject something here?
sir,
Okay, we've run through, the sections that are specific relative to this. What do you expect from me in terms of a cleaned up version of this? A lot of this is stuff that you guys are gonna work out on your own, I think, from what I'm hearing,
Kind of, yeah, in conjunction with village ordinances and things like that.
right, but remember our
So-
task, Leo, our task is to tweak this document,
right?
take out what you don't agree that
Right.
should be in there. Let us finish it first, but, you can use this document to go home and tweak it. And then our task is, send it to the village administrator, because he is the one collecting from not only us, but from other entities.
All right,
And then he'll take the ball on what goes from here. We
Okay.
don't have to be involved in your meetings, and that's, you guys,
no,
you're
I
gonna do
just
it
wanna
fine.
make, I wanna make sure that. So I'm gonna send you
Yeah,
data,
any changes to this thing?
yeah, you're
Yeah,
gonna
that's
send,
the output.
you're gonna send him the same thing. Correct?
whatever.
I don't bother the
Whatever.
chief.
No, okay,
You guys are
Yeah.
sending this to me.
Exactly.
I've already got it from PFC or
Okay.
Public Safety.
I
And I
wanna
got
make
it
sure I know
from
what I'm
Pitt.
supposed to do here,
Yeah, you just update this
so-
thing.
Yeah,
okay?
Cause then what I'm gonna do to ease their pain is in different color codes. Give you your ordinance back that it's been reviewed. There's some tweaks that you need to discuss with your team there,
Mhm.
because then it doesn't waste your all's time for your meetings. I think to Carrie's point,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't need you guys wasting an officer meeting and looking at something that as soon as it gets here, it's dead on arrival, because it'll be like, this is wrong. So it's really, I don't think it's putting the cart before the horse. It's helping you out to make a streamlined meeting that's already been addressed of all the concerns from the village, to include the lawyer. Cause after it's done here, I send it to the lawyer for his hack off. And then you guys are just looking at to agree, disagree, or accept the wording or not accept the wording, or if there's a burning issue, then we're having a discussion before I bring it to any of these guys or the seven or whatnot.
Yep.
And it makes your vote easy, cause all that nut work's done, huh?
Yeah, basically, Boz is hammering out the paperwork side of it, and then it comes back to us. We still have to approve everything before it gets its final release to the world.
Gary,
I guess my comment just about the, was, we didn't even get to, as a group, talk before, that's why I said a horse, we were going to the next meeting, and then it was, well, we gotta hand these over, like, well, we even, as a group, talked about it yet, we all have a copy to make our red marks on, and we were gonna meet the next time, every month or every other month, and then we were gonna hand them over to Boz.
I hear you.
There.
I
That's
don't think
what I
we're-
was saying.
I don't think we're in trouble, though.
No, we're not in
I
trouble.
think we're okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I really would like to have a more of a difficult conversation on these next topics. And one is applications. Currently, applications are received at the fire department level. They're almost never forwarded to the PFC. And that produces problems on a number of levels. The current procedure is PFC has this, when they receive a application, they go out and they do a resume application review. That's phase one. And there's comments on that. And then we enlist the police department to perform a criminal background summary. And that includes criminal history, neighbor reference checks, sometimes neighbor interviews, and as well as a criminal history. What comes across sometimes is a mental health history that comes up on the computer for police that is called time. time is a base of the Department of Justice. And that's where the chief goes through to get the information to provide a summary. So, all these things, a lot of times what happens is the first time that we're notified of an application is when the chief Drew copies the PFC on the background investigative report of summary with the PFC and to the fire chief. Well, that's our first inclination that application's been received. And by that time, a lot of times the membership committee has already completed their interview and are recommending the guy be hired. Well, you know, we're like, what do you mean? We didn't even know you guys had an applicant. Is there some reason why we can't get the applications when you do? Just for efficiency purposes, we can both do our stuff. We can talk about streamlining that process together. I don't want it to take longer either. I think it's in the best interest of all of us to streamline this.
Yep, I would just as soon have the applications get distributed right away, and then one interview, and then we, you know, background checks and votings can take place.
Would
don't
it
like
be
the multiple
easier to
interviews.
go through the village administrator when these applications come in? So he can kind of, here you go, here you go, here you go. He can do the police chief, he can do the PFC, and he can do the fire. A central guy or no? I mean, I guess I just don't understand why we're not getting applications, and it's like in the last 4 or 5, it's just not right.
Yeah, I don't have a good reason.
Okay.
Other than that's just trying to work through tradition versus change.
I understand that part.
Yeah.
I know. Like I said before, it's difficult because towns that have PFCs don't have membership committees. Towns that do have PFC, or towns that don't have PFCs have membership committees for that very reason. So just by our very setup, it's difficult.
Mhm. I think also part of the thought process is, you know, if we interview the person and it's just known right away that it's not going to be a good fit, I think it saves a lot of time with the administrator, with you guys, with Chief Drew doing background checks, things like that. We can just kind of make a quick determination, so.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that goes to my next point. The criminal history summary report. This is given to both the fire chief and the PFC. Now, this is sensitive and a lot of times HIPAA information with regard to if the law enforcement database contains any information about an applicant that may have a mental history of, just for example, maybe suicidal or this and that. And there's a red flag on the person, like, and a lot of times it's for police officer safety. When they run that person, it's when they approach the car, you know, stuff like that. But that's very sensitive information. That's information that I'm not comfortable with a lot of people knowing. I did speak to the head of the DOJ. It's their, what is the name of their, the department is the Crime Information Bureau. And it's the time, they call it the time system. The time system is what where they get this, they gather and disseminate criminal history and other history, including mental health, and then send it out. Now, the police chief is in a hard position because he can't give out a hard criminal history printout. He has to he has to do a summary by law. So when I explain the dilemma about, well, currently the information sometimes is provided to the membership committee, but sometimes the fire chief holds it back because he himself has got second thoughts about this sensitive information being provided to every membership committee member. And then what happens is the membership committee, I'm assuming, tells the entire fire department about the history of this applicant, and then they vote on it. That's wrong. That's sensitive information. We can't be doing that.
That doesn't happen.
Okay, all right.
We have had sensitive subjects. I've been very very diligent with keeping things private. I will confer or counsel with my assistant chief, who's the head of the Health, Safety and Membership
Okay,
Committee. That information does not leave the office. However, if the applicant themselves or a family member or say, I guess what I'm saying is I can't prevent the information from getting in anyplace else.
understand, but if you give that information to your assistant chief and he does or doesn't share it with the rest of the membership committee,
Mhm.
what happens ultimately is the membership committee, without having that information, seems like a great candidate. Let's vote to, let's inform the rest of the members that we vote to put them on. And then all of a sudden, the PFC, who's privy to this sensitive information and uses it to make a determination that this is not the right fit for this applicant. It's a perpetual issue between the membership committee, the fire department, and the PFC. We're perpetually mad at each other, and that we gotta fix that.
I guess, how would you like to see that handled? Let's say there is something that is just glaring, you know, horrible. They're a serial killer, you know?
Yeah.
I know it. The head of the membership committee knows it. He can take that information and go to the committee and say, listen, guys,
I got something I can't tell you.
there's something I can't tell you. It's not good.
Trust me, we don't want this applicant.
Yeah.
I'm fine
So
with
how
that.
do you-
This guy from the Department of Justice was really concerned with you guys getting this sensitive information. Not to the point where he asked where I worked. Or that he said it was illegal, because I asked him point blank, well, is there a statute you can point me to? What do you mean? He
Mhm.
goes, no, I'm just not comfortable with that. He goes, I think sensitive information such as that is gleaned from criminal history, or especially history that has come from police networks that speak of or infer mental health history. He goes, I just think it's best to keep that with the smallest amount of need to know folks.
Mhm.
So that's my concern, and I'm open for a resolution. I don't know what you guys want to do, but I'm really not comfortable with everyone knowing someone's history.
No, and not everyone does. I guess I'm gonna throw that right back on you. What do you
Okay.
wanna do about it?
Okay,
We lock it down, we share shared as best we can, but you know, if people are like, well, we met that guy, he's a great guy, you
Yeah.
know, he's friendly. You know, I wanna vote him on, so eventually it's gonna get back to you guys and you're gonna have to be the bad guy when.
and I don't mind that role,
That's what
but
we do if we have
you
to.
understand, we don't take those decisions of rejecting an applicant lightly. A lot of times we go above and beyond and extend ourselves. And, you know, it ends up being, oh God, you know, we're even worse, you know,
Mhm.
but that's my dilemma that I'd like to work together and try to resolve and keep that sensitive information to the least amount of people as possible.
Yep,
With as much as there's data leaks out there, that's just a liability waiting to happen.
yep, and I totally agree. I keep the information hidden, even if I get a printed out copy, I take it home and burn it. I don't want that stuff laying around.
So I guess what you're saying is you want it to kind of reflect that there will be that level of scrutiny over sensitive information. We want to know, I mean, obviously, one of the most important factors is that you trust your life with people in your stack or whatever you call it.
Yeah,
And so, you know, that's critical information, but regarding, you know, fitness for duty and stuff, you know, we want that secured.
Yeah, right.
yep, so it's kind of there's a kind of separate issues, you know, if you're concerned about us keeping information discreet, we're doing that.
I'm concerned about the applicant, Jason. And say we decide this information does not prevent us from hiring this person. How would you like it if every coworker knew exactly whatever happened in your life?
right.
That, what a terrible way to come onto a
Right.
job.
No, I'm totally, maybe I'm misunderstanding. I'm totally agreeing with this, with keeping sensitive information locked down. But then we're kind of getting into the the second part of the problem. How do we make informed decisions and not make you look like the bad guy and we can all
Well, I'll tell you.
get along
I'll tell
better?
you, if we continue the process of providing this sensitive information to you,
Mhm.
and you provide it to your assistant chief, and the assistant chief is the liaison with the membership committee, and that membership committee trusts the assistant chief when he says, I can't go into details, but we have some concerns about this applicant. We don't think it would be a right fit. I'm okay with that but you know, the membership needs to trust us as well as you and your assistant chief in that we're not gonna talk about this sensitive information as to why we rejected this candidate.
Mhm.
So there needs to be some trust, built up. Maybe we can work on that.
Love to.
Okay,
You had a couple of hands in the back.
I was just gonna say, I was on that membership, when I was on that health membership committee. So it sounds like what you're really after is to have the applicants bypass the department proper and the chief and go turn them into Boz, and then Boz can give them to you before Jason even knows about it.
no, I'd rather both of us bring, work on it at the same time. I think it would be more efficient if we worked on it at the same time, especially if someday we could come up with a process that we can streamline where we're not duplicating efforts. Maybe in some manner, do a co-interview, of people together,
Mhm.
you know?
I would just, if you mind, I would just offer the comparison I would have is, we just hired a public works guy last year. All the applications came into the village. I got a background check on everybody. This is before Ben even gets involved. Martinson, our public works guy. All the applications come in, I do a background check. The ones that don't even make the background check are automatically removed, and they're getting a call from me saying, thank you for your application. We can't take you at this time. But then the rest go through the process. And I'm out of it. I'm just the gatekeeper that I don't waste your time, and I don't waste these folks' time. Because there's gonna be 2, 3, 4 that are not gonna cut the background check. Now the background check sits between my chief and my office, and it doesn't even leave here. And the only next time it may leave here is if this body requests the final background check in a closed session, then it comes here. So that's what we do for regular employment. To give you a comparison, if you want to go that route. I don't think you want to go the route of the village force feeding applicants to the fire department. Meaning we take it all on and then we just say, here's your new firefighter.
No.
You don't want that. I agree with you. You don't want that.
Right.
And you don't want it at the same time, this body doing the same thing to you.
Right.
Without you in the loop.
Yeah, right.
So I would offer a comparison of there's an initial point. And then it just gets kicked over to you and membership committee. And then you guys kick it over to these guys.
Actually, sounds like less paperwork for you.
Kinda.
That makes sense.
My only concern about that is I think I don't know for sure, we haven't gone through this. I think I might be a little more lenient on the filtering process. Just because it's a volunteer paid on call organization. We're hurting for people. You know, when a job opens with the village, you probably get a whole bunch of people applying, a stack of resumes. Yeah, you can be stringent, oh, this person got picked up for drunk driving in 1984, gone. Where on the fire department, I like to be a little more lenient. I'm all about second chances,
You have an interesting point because the state law says that you can't reject applicants for criminal history or other background investigation reasons
Mhm.
that are not specific to the job that they are applying. Now, that's up for interpretation, obviously.
Yeah.
If I got a guy that has 3 convictions for theft, oh God, do I want a fireman going into an empty house and people's dressers, I don't know. I apply that kind of a criminal history to the fireman's job. I personally, we've had people that has had 3 OWIs on their history. I don't know if I want them driving a big red truck down the street, So there is some different opinions as to how that is received And I think maybe some of that has been our, maybe conflict in the past, because the fire department, the PFC may think, we think it's job related. I don't know. I don't think we should approve this and we should reject it. And then everyone's mad. You know, well, everyone can get a DUI once in a while. I don't know.
Sure.
Second chance. I'm all about second chance. I'm not as, probably my personality is not as forgiving as yours is. I admit that.
Probably seen a lot more
Well, yeah.
garbage in the world than I have.
Yeah. But that's the issues that we need to work on, I think.
Yep.
Okay.
So that would be my only concern, that the filtering process would
Sure,
be just a
yeah,
little too strict. But
Understand. Del?
Not to step on your toes, Jason, but I would, if I was in your shoes and you got the application, you said you had a new application coming in, I would take the application and don't even make a copy of it and give it to the PFC, let them run their background check. And let them come back with a yes or no. And if it's a no, then you could go and come in here and ask them, why do you say no? And if it's a second chance that you committee members want to make of this individual, you know.
Yeah, we could explain our
then
reasoning.
you can explain that
Yeah.
to Jason.
Yeah, it'd be closed session, but
Before,
yeah.
Yeah.
you know, and then you can do your meeting with him. The firemen, meet with him, have an interview like or whatever, and you guys can do yours, but at least get the background check out of the way. That eliminates a lot of your headache, Jason. You don't have to do it that way.
No,
I'm just saying it would
It's a great
make more
idea.
sense to hand the application over to them. You could say you got an application and tell the fire members who it is, and but I just throwing that out.
What we do with the police department, if, say if Josiah or Brandon were to quit and we had a vacancy for full-time officer that was funded. Okay, then Scott Drew notifies us, we post the application, we post the job, receive the applications, do an initial screening, do background checks, test them, interview them, whatever we have to do. It would be nice if there were half a dozen applications, but of course there aren't, just like in your case. Then we take the list of applicants who have passed through this process and we hand them to Scott. And then he can theoretically pick from the menu and select the officer that he wants. And correct me if I'm wrong, what I think has been happening here is the applications come to the fire department or to somewhere else. And as has been discussed, we've got these two parallel tracks going on. And sometimes you guys are into part of the process before we even know about it. And you're right, Bill, if everybody was to follow the same procedure, if all of the protective service applications, fire or police, were to come through to the commission, we do the deep dive on them. Have Scott or the county or whoever do that. And then prepare a list, give them to you, give them to Scott Drew, say, okay, these people are approved, appropriate, they don't have spooks in their closet, everything's good. And then you pick from the list, and anything that you do subsequent to that, that's up to you. You're right, the thing is back S-word, it's counterproductive.
So I like your idea, Del.
I just don't wanna know. If he's got a bad record on him, and if I was in your shoes, I don't wanna know it.
Yep.
I don't want him ever to come back and say, well, you know, that you spilled the beans that I'm a bad guy.
Right.
I don't wanna know it. I want them, the 5 people to know it.
Well, and Jason, I appreciate your transparency on your concerns. I think the really good thing is that you know the board well enough, or the committee, to know that there are a few of us that are very much about second chances.
Mhm.
So I think that with Dell's recommendation, you're getting all aspects really truly looked at. There's different personalities, there's different requirements, there's different aspects that each one of us are looking at.
Mhm.
And we, as I glare down here. But I think we also, it's good for all of us to keep in mind that you are in a little bit different position than, say, hiring for the police department or hiring for the works department. So, I appreciate you being honest and upfront about that, and I assure you that our board is pretty diverse in what we're looking at, and I
yeah.
guess I can't guarantee you that we'll push everyone through, but we do have your best interest in the villages in mind.
Yeah, I guess just as long as, we can follow it up with something where if you guys would reject an applicant, there would be the option of a discussion about it.
I think there should always be a discussion. I think
Yeah,
providing
sounds
you with
good.
rationale as
Like,
to
you
why.
sit in on our interview. That's the very least we can do. You know,
I'd rather have the membership committee sit in on the interview, but yeah.
okay, well,
Here's the,
or at least representatives from.
is the, I'm sorry, Carrie, go ahead.
I just got a quick question. My understanding is, I love Dell's idea that the back first. So the interview process, you're talking about having you five plus
No,
the three or?
no, here's what we do now, and I think, if we morphed into something different, we would change it a little bit. But what we do now, we have a police department, liaison team, and we have a fire department liaison team, and it's 2 commissioners each. So if your membership committee is, what is it, Carrie, 3?
Usually it's three, yes. We try to get three.
If your membership committee is 3 and we decide to combine forces somehow and do the interview at the same time, you'd have 2 of us and you'd have 3 of you. The job of those 2 that are the liaison portion is to come back and inform the complete 5 on what they feel, what they found, how it went.
And then from there, that's what I'm getting to. I like that idea. It's now, are we gonna take that to the whole then? The department whole for a vote?
Probably need to wait to see if the PFC confirms and
Yeah.
moves the applicant along in the process before it goes to membership.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. So
Yeah.
you meet every week, every month?
We meet as needed, so we can call special.
So we don't meet, but every month.
We do once a month as a regular meeting, but we have no problem calling special meetings.
If you had a candidate, that suddenly appears and say, there's a school opening up or an opportunity for this person to get something that they wouldn't have.
But that, I'm understanding that, so you guys can call a special.
We can
meeting.
go,
Yep.
we can go whenever.
We're fine.
But we still have to approve it through our department,
No,
be further on?
no, I think,
You're saying.
I think what you wanted, I don't know, what-
You wanna-
Carrie, I don't think you wanna approve that through your vote system until the PFC gives the final appointment.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's-
Yes.
Isn't that through the interview process and everything too?
Well, it's after that. Because those members come back and inform the total vote commission on how it went and in conjunction with your membership committee, if we do combine forces, we could do it that way.
If we combine forces and you guys have your little meeting and you all say, yep, he's got the background checks, you guys already done that, the meeting's been done. You guys approve him, our 3 guys say he seems like a good fit.
And you go back to your membership and hopefully before your membership, after your membership vote is the next village board meeting where we announce the appointment. You know
So
what I mean?
Once we take it back to our
Yeah.
department, first week of the month, and we vote 51% say yep. Then he can be on that following Tuesday.
Board member agenda,
Correct.
yes.
Well, we won't even be able to do that because our meeting is on a Wednesday and you need 7 days or 24 hours.
24 hours or so.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
so then he wouldn't come back to you again at all,
Well,
after we approved it.
We make the list.
no, I don't see why they would.
Correct, okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yep,
So once everything was done here and it came to us and as a committee, we said 51% said, yep. He's on to the village board and he can be on the next week.
yep. Really, the biggest issue for us is the background investigative report.
But that's like.
That's way before the interview though.
Correct, you should have the application comes in, hand it over to you guys do the background check and then set, next, once that comes back.
We
set
go
the
from
next
there.
one. Correct.
Yeah.
So working with the 3 committee members, how hard is it to get the 2 from you guys, the live ones all together, that deal?
Well, Andrea's the only one that that really is working a lot. Oh, actually Corey worked quite a bit. Sorry, sorry. Leo and Gary don't do anything all day.
That was my concern, but that's why I always said, try to get three, there has been times you only have two.
Yeah, when we meet, we usually meet at 4 or 5 o'clock at night. That's usually our, common.
And I think with a
Get
little bit of
together.
advance notice, I guess I'm not even I'm on fire, or on police, not fire,
Yeah.
so it's irrelevant for me. But I think with a little bit of advance notice, we're all pretty flexible.
Well, that's, I was saying, getting up, like I said, trying to get three is what we always try to do, but sometimes 1 and 2.
Well, yeah,
Because it's hard to get.
which is fine.
Which is
And-
fine.
and
But we wanna speed
understand,
this process up.
and understand, if we do combine forces and do something like that, there are certain protocols, and that is questions have to be consistent with every applicant. You can't have different questions for different people.
Correct.
And at the very end, there's some core questions that Leo has that, we do. So, but that would just be a matter of agreeing amongst us if there's 5 or if there's 4
Let me give you one.
There's usually
I
just one,
understand
right?
or, yeah.
Or you mean applicant or?
No, I mean, membership committee
Sorry, yep,
members.
yep.
I think the other important thing to remember is just because the PFC puts them on a confirmation list saying, we confirm they are eligible for hire,
Mhm.
you have the final say, correct? I mean, there's
Yeah,
nothing
and
that
that's
says.
important. I don't think that
Yeah.
Jason or the membership committee realizes that. The only reason they don't is because we don't get a lot of applicants for fire.
But if there's only one,
But
they
if there's
can
only
still, but
one-
they can still say at that point, we do not want to hire this person.
Not a problem with us.
So that's just important to remember. So we go through this whole process. There's only one applicant. We say, yes, they're on the eligible hire list. We're fine with you hiring them. And your membership committee says something we just don't like, or there's some red flag that didn't come up through the
Well,
background that
actually, it's
someone.
the chief that by law that
The chief.
can make that decision.
Decision,
Now, if he
yeah.
defers to his
However-
membership committee.
But
Correct.
That's
His
what I
membership
do.
committee gives him the recommendation.
Yeah.
He has the final say, but they also have the ability and the power to come to you with their thoughts. You make the final decision, but you can still say, nope, not a good fit. We'll wait for the next applicant.
Yeah,
And before you mentioned with having the applicant in mind, keeping the applicant in mind and his concerns. Well, when I was on that committee and we had that interview, we said, okay, this is what the expectations are. We meet on Wednesday nights. You're expected to go to school. You're expected to come to the drills. You're expected to be available to go to fires and all this. And so we always interview them twice because after they hear all this expectations, they go. "Screw this."
yeah, absolutely. And the chief is part of our fire department liaison group. So we asked the chief to tell the applicant exactly what you just mentioned.
Now, you notice on the top of that document I just gave you,
Possible.
those are the things that we start out with right out of the get-go. Understand that if this process proves to be successful, that this, and this, you're gonna have to deal with, like, for example, the 106 hours of training within the first year to get Fire One certification on wildland. They're all listed there. That way, when the candidate shows up, especially if they aren't coming from a fire department family or some other connection to the fire service, they're just in off the street. A lot of folks just, they don't know that. They just, every little kid wants to ride on the big red truck. And there's more to it than that.
Moving on in another, maybe a difficult discussion, and it might have more to do with your feeling of second chances, Jason. Section 1, paragraph 6, rejected applicants. Rejected applicants can reapply after 6 months. My question is why? What criteria that was used 6 months ago will have changed that you want to allow the applicant to reapply? Is that more of a second chance feeling kind of thing, or?
That's something that hasn't made it through our editing process.
Oh, okay, all right, so maybe something to note. Okay.
But we should have something in there. I know we've done it, we've talked about it. There's always been like a number just thrown out there. 5 years is kind of kind of a feel-good period, you know, for someone who kind of keeps their nose clean.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Is that appropriate to add something like that, or is that in violation of a state statute to?
I'm aware of no
When-
statute that addresses it at all.
Okay.
Do you really wanna put it in writing though?
I think
Yeah.
it should be a case by case basis.
It should be real general so that each individual is gonna maybe need a different.
Well, you wouldn't want a candidate to be able to come back and rely on that and say, I'm beyond the 5 years. What else is in here that you don't like? And
Well,
now
it's
it turns
right,
into a discrimination.
Yeah.
That,
Good point.
Something to think about. The next thing is an interim chief appointment. My concern, that's section 2, paragraph 5. And that one indicates a temporary interim chief. That's when interim chief should be appointed solely based on seniority. Short of a collective bargaining agreement, why don't you want the best qualified guy appointed? Why do you want your senior guy appointed interim?
We've always been a seniority-based department, you know, we've got
Okay.
a chain of command. I think by the time you go through some sort of application and approval process, you know, if I drop dead right now, you would want somebody in that role.
Yeah, I
So
don't
you
think we
go-
would go through any kind of a process. We'd appoint someone right away because like you said, it's essential.
Yep, so if you go through some sort of approval process or application process and it would take so much time and I think there would be too big of a lapse. So, I mean, again, this is adopted language. I don't think this was in our original set of bylaws, but, that would be my reasoning for it. We have a chain of command.
Yeah,
and
don't you have 2 assistant chiefs though?
Yep.
So that's the same level.
Well,
So the assistant chief that has the most seniority, you want appointed. And this is only interim basis anyway.
mhm,
If you drop dead tomorrow, we'd be going through the process of hiring a new fire chief.
right,
But in the meantime, we'd want an interim, and that would be. If you had 2 assistant chiefs right now, it'd be one of them.
mhm.
Why do you think we need to pick the most senior of the 2 assistant chiefs?
I guess that's more of a tradition thing.
Okay.
We used to be, promotions were solely based on seniority.
Oh, God. Oh, God, that's awful, Jason.
It was easy.
Promotion only based on
Yep,
seniority.
it was easy.
Oh, my God.
Next, somebody quits, next we move them right up.
Yeah,
Now it's a
Coming
headache.
from a guy who's been in the union for 34 years, I feel your pain, but that's how they kind of run it, like a union shop. But
Yeah.
It's not a union shop, and I am non-union now. And I tell you what, I think it should be on what you do, going how knowledgeable you are, but they don't run it that way.
yeah, I'm a merit guy too. I'm merit based.
Now,
I am too.
now it's not
Actually,
solely seniority based. It's a combination of merit and seniority,
What?
promotions.
Oh. But
Going
the
back,
interim chief
The
thing
interim
in your
chief,
bylaw is only seniority.
Like I said, with this, we haven't,
It's just a draft.
it's a draft.
well,
Okay,
and it's an interim. So, I mean, if that's how they wanna do it for ease, there's going to be a process for a new chief.
yes,
that
there
is
is.
flowed through.
You're
So,
absolutely right.
I mean, I think really attacking it,
temporary
it's a
thing.
temporary position, so.
By
Okay.
seniority,
I wouldn't
do you
spend a
mean
lot of time on it.
experience? Is that essentially?
Years on the department.
I got a quick question. So the most senior person, correct?
Mhm.
What it says here, what if he doesn't want it or she doesn't want it?
Oh, they can. Not,
So I
not
mean,
even-
just because you have the most seniority doesn't mean you have to take it.
Right, right.
Okay, just
Yeah, you don't have to take it.
Automatically terminate.
I don't know.
We'll make this easy.
No, Carl, don't do that.
All right, that's acceptable. Thank you, Jason. Carrie?
I do have a comment on that. I mean, you are saying qualified and the classification of qualifications is hard to interpret. We have all the schooling in the world, all the classes in the world, got more degrees than what's on the wall in here. But yet I've been in the truck with them and I wouldn't get in the truck with them again. I've been at a fire, I would hold the hose that he had. And he was on the department for 1.5 years and we removed him. But he was by far clerical, probably the most qualified to be on the department. on paper.
Yeah, and you're right, because,
it's
and there's
very
leadership
subjective.
qualities too. Set the certifications aside. There's leadership qualities, how you treat people, how you commend people, how you bring them together as a group.
So how we work together is a high quality of, gotta be looked at, and that's seniority comes from that, because you got respect on seniority usually, and that's why seniority has a big plate, but not a full plate, but it does, I mean, this is the way it's been, I mean,
And you're going to look at all of those things as you're going through the process to hire a new chief.
full time. So the interim
Exactly, the
one-
interim, and you need to have it happen relatively quickly. It's
Right.
very subjective. So
One-
something like this, that's easy to document and say, you're it.
One of
I
them
agree
two
with that.
Fair enough,
is moving up.
fair enough.
And he can still turn it down.
Yep,
Mhm.
we're structured like a paramilitary organization, you know, even on the fire scene, chain of command is the highest ranking officer on scene, so it's kind of the way it's already laid out, nice and easy. The chief is gone, one of the assistant chiefs moves up to interim.
Understood. The last two things are minor. I think they're typos. They have to do with, you guys you're not a town board. Section
Yeah,
Paragraph 7, that shouldn't be there.
you're right, that's,
Section 13, paragraph 1.
Yeah.
You don't mean to say ordinances of the township. We're not, that doesn't apply.
Yep.
Just typos.
right.
That was the only thing I
rough
just
draft
wanted
stuff.
to, for your edification. Any commissioners have other thoughts on when reviewing the bylaws that they would like to add in addition to this list that we've gone through?
We talked about it, but I don't think it's in your document, all of section 11, appeals for grievances.
Oh,
So I don't, I think it just
Jason had
needs to be
indicated
added.
that may be a mistake.
well, I just
It
think
is.
it needs to be added to either our document if you're revising or your document if you're revising, just because it is a pretty big section that
Yes, you
needs
want to
attention.
eliminate that, right, Jason?
Yeah, I've got a copy in mind.
Section 11, Leo.
Yeah, I just got a big question mark over the whole thing.
Okay,
Got it, I might
I
have just.
mean, I don't know for sure whether that even needs to be in there,
No, you can cross it off.
so.
okay.
Okay.
Anything else? Any other commissioners? Any concerns about the bylaws at this point? Right, so what we'll do is we'll ask Secretary Thomas Guard to forward our thoughts and concerns to the village administrator. And we will, our portion of the fire department bylaws is over. We're done. You guys do the rest. Okay.
Will be.
Gary, I think this was your item. Do you have discussion on current police and fire commission policies?
Yes, I'm trying to find my notes. It's why do we include the membership committee in ours? All we do in that section, I think, is we just discussed it. The applications come to us, and you do whatever you choose to do. We're not gonna write that in our policy. I think that's section 2. I don't have mine.
I tell you what, why don't we hold off on discussing and possibly editing that until we come to a potential agreement with Jason and some fire department members as to streamlining our hiring process with our membership committee and the PFC together doing interviews?
And that was section 2.05 that I was questioning.
Why don't we get some final answers and agreement if that's the route we're gonna take? And then we'll change to,
We can change
we
it.
can change it to reflect our new
Right.
partnership.
And that's maybe the only thing I could find in our
Okay,
policies, because we pretty much follow state law. And we're
That's section 2.05 of your policy book, right?
It's of the police and fire commission policy.
Page 8,
I remember this from the last meeting.
I was gonna bring it up, but
Yep, because I think what you're getting at is we spell it out in our policy
right.
and you guys spell out the same thing in your policy and it's.
And if you
double
change
duty then.
yours, we gotta go change ours and we'll get away from trying to bring these
right,
three.
Yeah, just
three
so they're not
sections together,
contradictory
So we
is
don't
all we're worried
contradict, and
about.
that's what I'm worried
those
about.
those three conditions that are listed. Says the only legitimate grounds not to vote affirmatively for an approved candidate are insufficient experience, education, residency located unreasonable distance, documented history demonstrates unfit character, criminal behavior, or whatever. So,
Yes, you're talking about striking that from
From our
PFC.
policy.
We can get that out of there.
And we would reflect something in that section that does not conflict
Right, right.
with the village or fire.
Okay.
Well, yeah,
Fair enough.
we can touch on that later, like
All
you
right,
said.
sounds good.
Okay, that's all.
Any, commissioner comments?
I appreciate you guys all coming tonight.
There's good input, yeah.
When we have school board meetings, nobody ever comes, except to yell at me.
This is the first time anyone's ever come to our meeting.
And, you know, we, at the end of the last meeting, I told Jason, I said, I feel bad that the situation has developed the way it has. And I would be happy to come to the firehouse and sit in the corner and talk to anybody who wants to talk to me. I don't wanna go over and get yelled at for 2 hours, but I would be happy to go and bring the stuff and try to explain whatever your membership wants to have explained. We hire, we fire, we promote, we discipline. We don't create policy, we don't pay them, we don't have any fiscal responsibility whatsoever. Zero. No budget, no pay. Whatever you wanna do inside your house is your business. We deal with those 4 issues. That's it. We're kind of like the HR department for the protective services in the village. And that is all we do. And if you've got an internal issue of some sort, and it doesn't rise to the level that we discussed, that's none of our concern. That's you guys. You deal with it in-house as any other organization would. You know, it's just, I think we got off on the wrong foot. And I'd like to do whatever I can do to see that gets improved. So.
Next meeting date, we're looking, the first Monday of the month is May 1st. Does that work, or should we look at May 8th? We like to have it before the board meeting. I'm assuming the board meeting is maybe May 10th. That month. Or the 9th, I mean, yeah.
You got some curious.
May 1st or,
Nothing to do with that. I wanted to touch on Leo's thing, so you can wrap.
okay, so, how does everyone's schedule look for May 1st?
May 1st, should be fine, I think.
5 PM?
5 PM, May 1st.
I will be back from Virginia.
Okay, very good. And, prior to, adjournment, Carrie, did you have a comment?
Leo said, you know, I mean, with the representation here, I mean, as you can see, this department means a lot to a lot of people.
It does.
And, we'll stand behind our brotherhood and we will stand behind our chief whenever he needs it. And, yeah, there's some things that need to be fixed. And,
And I'd love
I gotta
that.
respect everybody that's on that ground. If I can't do that, and if I can't respect the people that are telling me what to do, we have issues. And, we're here to make note that, we're paying attention. And
Good.
the community's paying attention, and, we gotta fix it. We are a small community.
Good.
And, we have an asset here that could go by pretty quick. Where numbers are dropping, and, our bylaws, as you read in there, we've changed them from the original one, from 22 members to 15. At this moment, you know, we're having a hard time holding 15.
Yeah.
And, you know, now we drop our number to 10, do we drop our number to 8? Where do we drop this number to where we can no longer function?
I don't.
You know, at 15 was our number, we're like, this is it, man, at 15, that's hard to put up a fire. And especially during the day, and we gotta start getting people here, and we gotta stop all the drama in this freaking village.
Well, hire, fire, promote, and demote. We're happy to, take on that, responsibility.
Retiree, he wants to say something.
I have a question. Now, you said this was, your PFC was from 19 or from 18,
June of 2018.
2018. Now, what did we gain by getting this? PFC? I mean, it wasn't worth it. I mean,
Well, the original, and Gary has some real good history on how PFCs were formed and why they were formed. But basically, it's to take the politics and the, corruption out of, hires and
Police and fire.
promotions. It's to separate that. None of the people up here are politicians. We're all volunteers in the community. We have no stake in political aspirations. All we want to do is serve. And that's our focus. Gary, you might want to explain a little bit more why he had to testify into the state legislature as to why small towns need PFCs and what good it does. It takes these trustees and boards away from the nepotism and other reasons that just aren't fair when you deal with employees.
And again, not to take a lot of time, just one example that was happening in about 1989, 90, 91. If a small fourth-class cities, village or town decided that the new elected officials didn't like the policeman or fire department, they would eliminate that position, rename the position and bring their person in. I mean, that's basically, and that happened in several places around the state. I was fortunate at that time to be representative on a state chiefs association, and we took it to the legislature and they passed a law that allowed smaller fourth-class cities, villages and towns to have a police and fire commission. And if you don't have a police and fire commission, you still have to appoint for any discipline. If you fire someone, you still have to appoint a citizen committee to do that. And what usually happens, 3 people out of the community haven't been able to go to the meetings and stuff we go to, so we know how to do it. And there's 3 people picked from the community to fire someone, and they don't even know what the procedure is as it's outlined in the state statute.
Isn't it 5,000 threshold?
Yes,
If
5,000
you have a community
villages
of
and
5,000
above,
or more, you gotta have a PFC.
you gotta have a PFC,
Under that, it's the local municipal discretion.
right?
On that point, I agree with what you're saying all 100%. Why can't there be a community one as like Rapids, Grand Rapids, Port Edwards, Nakusa?
Consolidated?
Having one, and then the cost isn't so much high, it's so high on a taxpayer community. To have them all.
Actually, the state statute addresses that very issue.
Mhm.
However, the fire and police departments need to be combined as well. And then it's legal to make a PFC that is combined.
You
For
can't
combined.
have a PFC combined. Like
Like up in Wausau, in southern Marathon County, about 15 years ago, all of the municipal PDs south of Wausau, Weston, Cronerwetter, Rothschild, Schofield, Red Mountain, Fort Everest Metro PD.
Yeah,
About 3 or 4 years ago, I don't remember which ones, 3 of those communities created a fire district. They hired full-time people, they built a new station, they renamed the department, they even repainted some of the trucks. Because there was like you said, there's a really strong tradition in the fire service, and they put a display case in the new station with a section for each of the previous departments that were combined.
So my understanding.
When you do something like that, you can have a joint commission.
They
Until
would have
then,
to
you
be
can't.
joint, you couldn't just have one committee, one group that if there's an issue in Nakusa, you oversee that. There's an issue in Rome, you oversee that.
that's
I mean,
correct.
almost countywide, you know?
That's correct. You
Because the
could not
state statutes don't allow it.
Right.
And the good thing is, I don't know that we as a PFC committee are costing the taxpayers a whole lot, because I'm certainly not seeing any type of
I'm not
compensation, so.
If you got every community having one, is what I'm saying, is the taxpayers of the county.
Yeah, I mean, the taxpayers are definitely, there's a small, very small factor there, but it's,
But I'm saying if you combine all of them, it can get to.
Sure.
If you're talking 70 communities that have to have all 5 committees, well, there's $20,000 a year of tax money going to.
Does the Coast have a PFC?
I have no idea.
I should know since we hire them.
I mean, if I go to 12 meetings a year, I make $300.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is. none of us are here to cost the village.
I'm a
any-
volunteer firefighter that it took a long time to get that.
Well, it's the same with you
whatever.
guys.
Yeah.
Lately, it seems
curious
like
on
I'm
that,
working
you know.
8 hours a day, and so I'm getting like a nickel an hour, so. Anyway, thanks for your input, appreciate you all coming, and we will meet again on 5/1 if we do not call a special meeting earlier. And with that, I'll announce the meeting adjourned at
I'll make a motion.
6:52, a motion for
I'll
adjournment,
make a
Gary
motion.
second. By second to
Second.
adjourn,
Second by Andrea.
Andrea, all in favor, say aye.
I,